Damn it! I've just taken one of my best images with my guide scope.
Perfect.
G'day everyone, I'm Dan. Welcome back to Pretty Average Astro. In this video I'm going to be following on from my last episode with the Evoguide 50ED, where I did some narrowband imaging hooking up my 533 MC Pro and the Arizona flattener. The results, in my opinion, ended up being pretty fantastic when you take into consideration the equipment being used and my amateur skills. The feedback that I got was really positive from my first video. There were some people that were already imaging with the 50ED, and I think I inspired a few people to either look at getting the 50ED, or if they already had it, to get the flattener for it, or even just trying some other equipment that was lying around to see what they could do with it. So naturally I wanted to do more. The long weekends, Easter long weekend has just passed. The weather was actually really good, and I thought I missed out on some good weather because I didn't take my telescope and I was kicking myself for it. But this week is looking really, really good. So I think I've got about 3 or 4 nights of clear skies, not much wind. So I'm going to make the most of it imaging with my Evoguide 50ED, and my poor Evolux is just going to have to sit there and not do much. My setup really hasn't changed. I used the SV Bony IR cut filter last time to do the broadband targets, and what I've done for this, I purchased a second-hand Zevo filter drawer, and in that I've got the Optolong L-Ultimate for narrowband imaging. When it comes to my exposures, what I'm going to do is pretty much the exact same as I did last time. They're going to be 60-second unguided exposures. The mount's still a little bit off balance, but not too bad. It'll have a good polar alignment, and I'll be taking full calibration frames, being flats, darks, and flat darks or dark flats. I wasn't sure initially what targets I was going to choose, whether I was going to just do one or multiple targets, but the way the telescope and my garden is set up, the Carina Nebula NGC 3372, I hope that I got that right, is pretty much going to rise just to my left quite low and track all the way over my house to about 4 o'clock in the morning. So for the next 3 nights, I'm going to shoot the shit out of the Carina Nebula and hopefully get about 15 hours or so of data at a minimum. That would be great, and I think that'll give me a really, really good result. I think I'm just going to probably blow myself away again and embarrass my Evolux, which I haven't used for ages now. Yeah, I'll try not to waffle on, but yeah, let's get into it. So for those who haven't seen my setup, here's a bit of a close-up. I'm running the HEQ5 mount, which I've belt modded. I've got a generic 10 amp DC power supply with a splitter cable, which is powering the mount separately to my ASIM Mini. I've got the Skywatcher Evolux 82 ED as my main imaging scope, and the Evoguide 50 ED. I've removed the extension tube that comes with the Evoguide to fit the Arizona flattener to achieve focus. The flattener has a standard 55mm back focus, where I've integrated the Zevo filter drawer into that. I've got the 533 MC Pro, which is currently cooling down, and I've got my ASI 290 MC, which is usually my guide camera / planetary camera. Some questionable cable management at the moment, and I've got the SV Bony dew heater, which is normally for my main scope, but I'm just using it for the Evoguide tonight. That's pretty much it. Oh, most important thing right here is the Optolong L-Ultimate filter. This little filter drawer is yeah, pretty awesome. Alright guys, well the results are in and I'm not going to lie, they're bloody ridiculous. But before I get to the images themselves, in terms of how the actual imaging sessions went, they went absolutely fantastic. Clear skies, no wind, no problems with my mount, no problems focusing, no disconnections, everything was pucker. So after my perfect imaging week, my plan was to take everything home for the weekend and process my images. Now, there were a lot of photos. So after getting rid of all the bad frames, I still had 1,336 frames that were stacked, which ended up being just over 22 hours of footage. My PixInsight needed over 300 gigabytes of free space just to start the process, which I don't have on my MacBook, so I had to use an external SSD. So it took over 20 hours, I think it was close to 24 hours when I first did my weighted batch processing for the first time, and I stacked my lights, darks, dark flats, and flats. And to my horror, no matter what I did, this was the image that I was getting. And every single frame that I looked through Blink or through the ASI Fits Viewer app looked perfect. Everything was fine. It was absolutely doing my head in. I repeated the process about 4 times, trying different settings, taking out certain calibration frames, taking out my flats because I thought that might have been doing it, not doing dark flats, doing biases instead. And the thing was, it took over 20 hours every single time to do this, and local normalization was taking over most of it. And I was so keen, I'd had such a good week, I was so excited to try and get this video out, and I just couldn't understand why, because I've been doing narrowband imaging before with my one-shot color camera, and I've never run into this issue before. I didn't change anything that I did in PixInsight. So after the 4th time, I ended up posting my problems in the Facebook PixInsight for Beginners forum, and I had Adam Block actually sent me a link to a video that he made, which is exactly what was happening to my frames. So he explains that really, really well in the video. I'll leave a link. The only difference is PixInsight has been updated slightly, so there's a bit of an update. He understands it way more than me, and this is a very basic interpretation. So pretty much, because I was only taking 60-second exposures through a narrowband filter, which was cutting out a lot of light, so the sky was really dark, the pixel range that it was registering through PixInsight, some were either 0 or negative, and when I would calibrate that with a dark frame, it would actually subtract that whole pixel. So what Adam Block says in his video is you have to adjust the pedestal settings and bump it up 100 or 200 so it becomes a positive number, and PixInsight doesn't pretty much delete your data. So what you'll need to do is in the calibration tab, you'll need to click on your lights, and under here, output pedestal settings, you have an option for automatic, which will automatically detect this and adjust as required, or you can put in your own manual value. So that's just one more thing to learn. So yeah, so I changed that setting, put in all my calibration frames, let it go for another 24 hours, and I'm not sure what happened. I still haven't figured it out yet, and something's gone wrong with my calibration frames. I'll give you a quick SDF stretch. This is not the edited image, and there's a massive gradient, something to do with my flat or dark or something. So that happened, and then in the end I chose not to do any calibration frames at all, and it's, like I said, the best image I've ever taken. So I won't show you on PixInsight. I'm just going to play some rad music, and here we go. I told you. Like, what the f? Are you kidding me? Every time I look at that starless image, it gives me tingles in the nether regions. Like, look at the size of that thing. And, you know, like you think about resolution and everything, but man, are you kidding me? Look at the core. Look how sharp. Look at all that stuff. Like, it is unbelievable. What have I done? What have I done? And then the start, man. It's just beautiful, isn't it? And you see some very slight halos with that L-Ultimate, but it's just incredible. Like, this setup it's just perfect. Now after this, it kind of demands that I need to put some things into perspective and where priorities lie when it comes to astrophotography, what you actually need, and the results that you can actually get with minimum equipment or not doing what everyone else is doing. So number one, you obviously don't need a big telescope. When I say that, yes, there's small lenses around. I think we kind of need to stick to ED glass. This has got FDL, I think 53, and so does the Redcat. I think we need to set a limit there, so minimum ED glass with a small refractor. You obviously don't need guiding. I'd recommend electronic polar alignment if you don't have guiding. And with the exposures, you don't need long exposures. These are all 60 seconds. So probably when it comes to my top two priorities, besides the mount, you obviously need a tracking equatorial mount. You don't need an AM5. You probably don't need a HEQ5. You're going to go a small telescope. But I think probably number two is a cooled astro camera. And I was probably against that for a little while, and I got mad results with my modified DSLR, but there's probably no way I could just get that clean detail. I saved the image and realized I'd forgotten to do noise exterminator. The results were that clean. Obviously, signal to noise ratio was extremely high with that many images, but with the cooled camera, the sensor in the 533, that makes a difference. And over buying a big telescope, I'd look at putting your money towards a camera, but most importantly, software. And I'm going to come down to PixInsight, the plugins for PixInsight, There's just no, yes, you could probably achieve close to it, but there's just the tools in PixInsight, the nerds that made it, it's insane. And I think investing in PixInsight is probably your absolute number one. It could make my DSLR look as clean, I guess, with Noise Exterminator and Star Exterminator, the gradient removal, the SDF stretching. It's, yeah, PixInsight is the go. Yes, it's a bit of money, but you're not paying a subscription fee, and it just makes your life easier. It really does. Instead of spending hours and hours like I was on Affinity Photo, not that I'm dissing it, I'm just saying get PixInsight, get an Astro camera, and yeah. But you don't have to do that straight away. I didn't, obviously. I guess I'm just looking in hindsight of my journey and stuff, and I wouldn't change it because I've obviously learned everything that I have. But there you go. This is what you can do with this stuff. I feel like the Evo Lux is an unwanted child at the moment, so I'm going to have to give it some attention. So I'll probably switch the rig back, start doing some other targets with the Evo Lux, and hopefully get some images like this. And if you guys have any targets that you recommend I should shoot as well over winter, please let me know. I'm really keen to shoot some new things now that I've got a Narrowband L-Ultimate filter. Now I've got the Beta Moon and Sky Go filter for broadband. So, and again, just thank you very, very much for everyone's comments, suggestions, advice, likes, subscriptions. It's really great. So you've given me a lot of motivation to continue to just record stuff. So I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.